Hi everybody and welcome to Out of the Gate, Daily Racing Forum's weekend handicapping preview program. I'm Dan Illman. Thanks so much for watching. Here's what's coming up in this week's international edition of Out of the Gate. Daily Racing Forum handicappers Mike Beer, Matt Bernier, and I will take a look at two important Kentucky Derby preps, the Grade 1 Florida Derby from Gulfstream Park, the Grade 2 UAE Derby from Meydan on the Grade 1 Dubai World Cup undercard. Of course, we'll also talk about West Coast in the Dubai World Cup. JK's doing some double duty this week. He'll handle the Tourney Talk segment, and he'll also give out some value plays on Saturday's guaranteed Rainbow Six takeout. You won't want to miss that. David Aragona's Timeform U.S. Spotlight, Nicole Russo's Pedigree Pick focuses on the Florida Derby. We got best bets, horses to watch, and lots more. So let's break Out of the Gate. We begin Out of the Gate with our Horse Watch segment. Matt Bernier, you've got a 3-year-old sprinter to watch in South Florida.
Yeah, this is a horse called Madison's Luna. We actually talked about him a few weeks ago. He was a horse watch. Then that was out of his debut score at Tampa Bay. They bring him back here in the Hutchison Stakes in his second lifetime start, and this is first time against winners at Gulfstream. He goes out there and puts the boots to this field. Now, I can understand if you want to just look at the field and say he didn't beat a lot, but I think he's done a lot in 2 life starts, and you can tell by the way that he's looking out at the grandstand. He still doesn't really know what he's doing. He's got a giant pedigree here. It sounds like they're talking about a race like the Pat Day Mile on the Kentucky Derby undercard, but to me, he just feels like a big pile of unknown. He could be something down the road, and look, if these 3-year-olds continue to take turns beating one another, maybe down the road he turns into something.
Mike, you've uncovered something at Oaklawn, a little bit of a secret trip horse.
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Share the Upside. There's just not that much going on at Aqueduct these days with their 3-day race week, so he had to go out of town for a horse watch. And Share the Upside, first-time starter for Steve Asmussen. Here's his debut. We're going to start right at the beginning here. He's the number 2. You can see him come out of the gate a little slowly, but look how fast this horse is. He's a son of the wicked fast sprinter McLean's Music. This horse has plenty of speed. He got right up there with the pace after braking slowly. He contested it to this point into the upper stretch, and now he's just going to get set down here and get away from this field at the end. I thought this was a pretty promising debut with an 82 buyer for a Steve Asmussen first-time starter.
Really nice first time out, to miss the break, to rush up, to get involved in a pace duel, and then to just draw away like this in very professional fashion. A lot of upside here for Share the Upside at Oaklawn Park. Turf Sprint Division, always a fun one to follow. I think maybe I found a promising new face. That's Imprimis, a 4-year-old gelding who made it 3 for 3 the other day at Gulfstream Park. We swing into the stretch. This is his first start for trainer Joe Orsino. He won his first 2 races for Tim Hills, and he showed a lot more speed this time around. He came from off the pace to win his first 2 starts at 5 furlongs. He was right up on the pace this time around, and he just hammers this field in the stretch, and it was a fast race. A 99 buyer speed figure. He is a son of Broken Vow. There's a little bit of pedigree here. This is the family of such notable dirt horses as Miss Shop and Trap Shot. I think Imprimis can be a really promising turf sprinter down the road. He still has a lot of upside. He's only raced 3 times for trainer Joe Orsino down in South Florida. Let's get to some handicapping. The DRF Bet Saturday race of the day, the Florida Derby. Saturday's DRF Bets race of the day is the Grade 1 Florida Derby, an important Kentucky Derby prep. Let's take a look at the field of 9 3-year-olds set to go 1 1/8 miles. It's the anchor leg of everything at Gulfstream, including a guaranteed payout of the Rainbow Six. We could have a $20 million pool. For expanded stakes previews, visit video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Forum YouTube channel, and you can access free Formulator Pass performances for the Florida Derby on the Race of the Day event page on drf.com. Mike, the number 6 Catholic boy, made waves by winning the Remsen at this 1 1/8 distance last year. What did you think of his first start this year at 3? Some folks were a little bit disappointed. Some were a little bit more kind, saying he was a short horse in his first start back.
Yeah, I guess I'm in the camp of being at least a little kind to him. I don't necessarily think the Sam Davis was a race he had to win. We can look at the replay now. He sort of took that, sort of outside trip in this race. There wasn't really a big pace in this race. So here at this point, looks like he's going to take over from the eventual winner Flame Away and win his 3-year-old debut. That doesn't happen. He can't put the race away, and he winds up settling for second best. I'm not going to be too hard on him for it. I really did like his Remsen a lot in his first ever dirt start at the end of his 2-year-old year, as you point out, at this distance. I'm hoping he can take a step forward off of a race like that here in the Florida Derby. Listen, you made me do a Derby top 5 last week, and I had him number 1. What am I going to do, not pick him in the Florida Derby?
Matt, you had Catholic Boy number 1 on your top 5 last week, and you did not pick him in the Florida Derby, but at least you went with a big price.
Yeah, Hofburg is where I'm ultimately going to land. We're going to take a look at the most recent run. This was his career day, first win, I should say. This was at Gulfstream, and he was wider than wide throughout, and I think that's the most impressive about him. He's got a big pedigree in here. I understand that he's a little light on figs, but this is not a typical move for Bill Mott. Mott doesn't usually throw him into the deep end like this. And again, with the pedigree, consider that he ran, I think there's enough to like about him. Take a shot in a race. I like Catholic Boy. I don't love anybody else, though.
I'm not going to overthink this. It's Todd Pletcher. It's Gulfstream. Simple. He won it last year with Always Dreaming, and he's got a sharp horse in Audible. Unfortunately, is going to be the favorite in this race. We'll go back to Audible's earlier start this year at Gulfstream. I believe it was the Holy Bull, and he's taken some pressure on the outside from Free Drop Billy. Look how quickly Audible just scoots away from Free Drop Billy. He settles this in a matter of 3 or 4 strides. Now, he kind of did things backwards from a mechanic standpoint. He was on his right lead on the turn. You'll see him hop back to his left lead late. I think Todd will probably have him figured out here. You've got the horses from the Fountain of Youth with speed, and I think Audible has enough speed to sit a good tracking trip in either 3rd or 4th and get the jump on the closers turning into the stretch. He'll be my top selection in the Grade 1 Florida Derby. Interested to see who's going to get the mile and an eighth from a pedigree standpoint. Nicole Russo's got that covered in her pedigree pick segment. JK again doing double duty this week. He handles tourney talk. Let's hit those segments, and when we come back, it'll be UAE Derby and the Dubai World Cup.
Hey everyone, Nicole Russo coming to you for Out of the Gate, and with the Kentucky Derby 5 weeks from this Saturday, really starting to zero in on if some of these horses can get the 1.25 mile distance. They're going 1.125 miles in this Saturday's Florida Derby at Gulfstream. Let's look at the field now for one of the major props that offers 100 points to the winner. And of course you see Fountain of Youth winner Promises Fulfilled and Holy Bull winner Audible getting their matchup in there. But my segment this week is going to focus on one of the other graded winners in here, Strike Power, who again looks to prove he belongs going 2 turns. He won his first 2 starts, including this score in the Swale at 7 furlongs in impressive fashion, then was second to Promises Fulfilled, going the 1.16 miles in the Fountain of Youth. Now, Strike Power is by Speightstown, of course, a champion sprinter in his own right, and he's sired plenty of good sprinters, including Canadian champion Essence Hitman, Group 1 winner Reynaldo the Wizard, and Grade 1 winners like Dance to Bristol, Rockfall, Poseidon's Warrior. His best longer distance runners include Jockey Club Gold Cup winner Haynesfield, Traverse Dead Heat winner Golden Ticket, and some longer distance runners on turf like Belmont Derby winner Force the Pass and the brilliant multiple Grade 1 winner Seek Again. Also had Tamar Coos, who won the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, sort of an in-between distance. Strike Power will really have his female family behind him in terms of trying to get longer distances. His dam, Gold d'Oro, who you're watching here, was really a long-winded turf runner. She won multiple times and with stakes placed going that classic distance of 1.25 miles, was also graded placed at 1.125 miles, definitely at her happiest going 2 turns. Gold d'Oro, very well bred, a daughter of Medaglia d'Oro, who of course is alive on the Classics trail this year with runners like Bolt d'Oro. He's really coming alive as a broodmare sire, as you'd expect with all his good daughters out there. Gold d'Oro is a half-sister to Adriano, who won the Lane's End before starting in the Kentucky Derby some years back, went on to be a graded winner routing on the turf. This is the extended family of Belmont winner Bet Twice and Santa Anita Oaks winner Golden Treat. That's all for me this week on Out of the Gate. We'll see if Strike Power can get that distance, but for now, it's time for some tournament talk.
Hey everybody, welcome to Tournament Talk. Pete Fornatell is not with us today, but I'll try to fill you in as much as I can on the tournament events we have going on this weekend. Exciting news on DRF tournaments. The World Horse Players Tour released their rules this week. Very interesting new dynamics in that contest with a kind of a made-for-TV final table, 1 entry per player, anti-collusion rules. Check those out when you get a chance. Also, qualifiers for the World Horse Players Tour going on this weekend. Saturday, $135 feeder to the April contest. Also on Sunday, we're going to try a new situation with a 1-in-2. No matter how many people are playing, it's a 1-in-2 ratio. So you just got to be in the top 50% of that contest. Should be interesting on Sunday. But March 31st, Florida Derby Day, there's going to be a lot of great action. Get qualified for Keeneland, Monmouth, the Wood Memorial Contest, Belmont, and then obviously the WCH has qualifiers as well. You can get rolling in that direction. See you guys online at tournaments.drf.com.
You asked, we listened. DRF Plus has more flexible subscription options. Use DRF Plus Basic for exclusive news and analysis, including our DRF Live real-time news feed. Or go deeper with DRF Pro and unlock buyers, closer looks, picks, and reports, including the DRF Daily Game Plan. DRF TV viewers get 50% off the plan of your choice. Use code DRFTV50 at checkout. Learn more about the DRF Plus subscription plans at drf.com/plus.
Welcome back to Out of the Gate. Let's take a look at the field for the UAE Derby on the Dubai World Cup undercard. 9:30 a.m. Eastern Saturday morning. These 3-year-olds going for $2 million at about 1 mile and 3/16. And who knows, maybe we'll get a Kentucky Derby hopeful or two. For expanded stakes previews, DRF's international correspondents Marcus Hirsch and Steve Anderson handled the expanded stakes previews for many of the Dubai races. Head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. Mike Beer, the number 5 Gold Town, 6-5 on the morning line, and he just ran away and hid in his most recent start over the Maidan surface.
Yeah, the home team here, the Godolphin Blue. This horse has run twice on dirt so far to meet the only 2 dirt starts of his career. He was really impressive winning both of them, including this one here, the 2000 Guineas. Just got right to the lead in this race. You can see him powering away from this field in the stretch. He never changes leads, didn't change leads in his win 2 starts back, didn't change leads here, but he's been pretty impressive both times. What you have to ask yourself is how short a price do you want on him in a race where he's facing better horses and where he's going to stretch out really for the first time. He went 1 mile that day. He's going to pick up another 3/16 in this race, and he's got an awful lot of sprint on the damn side of his pedigree.
Matt, I gave you a little bit of grief for not picking your number 1 in your Derby top 5 Catholic boy in the Florida Derby, but at least one of your top 5 gets to be your top choice in the UAE Derby.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Rewrite. I threw him in there number 5 as far as the Derby top 5 last week. Now I'm going to go with him here in the UAE Derby. We're going to take a look back at his win in the Mind That Bird Derby most recently. This form was flattered a little bit last weekend when you saw the runner-up in this spot, Runaway Ghost, come back to win the Sunderland Derby. It may not have been a blistering final time, but I like the way that Rewrite digs back in. Something that you've got to keep in mind, guys, about Dubai, Maidan in general, all day on Saturday. Keep an eye on the racetrack because some of these races that have been run over the past 2, 3, 4 weeks, speed has been absolute gold. If you don't have speed, you've got no shot. I'm going to need Javier to be a little bit aggressive with Rewrite and get him into the run early.
Aidan O'Brien, Ryan Moore, they've got Mendelssohn, Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf winner, I believe, right. Mike Beer. I believe kin to Beholder. There's a lot of buzz around him concerning the Kentucky Derby. He's going to have to prove it on dirt, but Aidan O'Brien's got a couple of other horses in here, including one that we're a little bit interested in. Yeah, they're all coming out of the same race at Dundalk earlier in the month, and we'll see. Obviously, Mendelssohn's the one that they are highest on over there. He's got the credentials, he's got the pedigree, as you pointed out, and he did win his seasonal debut on synthetic. But let's look at that race because you and I are going to take a little bit of a shot to upset him with his stablemate Seahenge, who is the horse slow to go here out of the gate in Dundalk. He didn't break that great. He's a big sort of good-looking 3-year-old. He didn't have a lot of speed in that race. If what Matt was referring to over the past few weeks comes true on Saturday, this horse might be in a little trouble, but he stays on through the stretch. He's always behind his 2 stablemates here at the end of this race. He's not really making any ground, but he is racing on. I'm hoping that he'll handle a little bit of a stretch out here. He has
to me, enough dirt pedigree to suggest that he could maybe even take a step forward on Saturday. It's just kind of race where I was just hoping for a little bit of a price.
I agree. He was no match for Mendelssohn, but it's not like Mendelssohn blew my socks off or anything. He sat the pocket, the rail opened up, he shot on through, he got a great trip. I'm not sure he really proved anything to me, and he certainly still has to prove his mettle on dirt, and you know he's going to take money. I know that Seahenge, like Mike says, has a little bit of dirt pedigree. You saw him miss the break. That has been a problem for him, and he can't afford to get too far behind in the early portion of this race, but the price is going to be right. I'll take a chance along with Mike with Seahenge in the UAE Derby. Now time for the big one, the Dubai World Cup. Here's the field for the big one, the Dubai World Cup. $10 million at Meydan. We're going about 1.25 miles. Carded is race number 9. Approximate post time, 12:50 p.m. Eastern. For expanded stakes previews, our international correspondents Marcus Hirsch and Steve Anderson handle the expanded stakes preview for the Dubai World Cup. For expanded stakes previews of most of the major graded stakes races all weekend long, head on over to video.drf.com or the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel. We'll get to the odds-on morning line favorite, the number 9 West Coast, in a moment. But Matt, one of the keys to this race is whether the number 7 Talismanic, the winner of the Breeders' Cup Turf, can handle dirt. Off of what you saw in his synthetic prep, did you get any answers?
Well, I don't think you really found anything out. We're going to take a look at that run from Sean T right now, and you see he's just right up on the outside, and I know he beat a good horse that day in Cloth of Stars, who I believe was the runner-up in the ARC last year, but look, this is a synthetic racetrack that's going to play a little bit closer to the turf than it is the dirt, and you see they were just kind of walking out there. Talismanic's a very talented horse. I have no question about that, but at a middling or shorter price, I just feel like he's probably going to be an underlay in this spot. Really talented. I just don't know if I want to find out if dirt is his thing.
Just not sure he handled this surface as well as he handles turf. I think the pace is going to be a lot faster than what he's used to in Dubai, and he could be far, far behind. Remember, he got a really great candy trip in the Breeders' Cup Turf. The horse to beat, of course, Mike, though, is Bob Baffert's West Coast. This horse hoping to follow in the footsteps of Arrogate and California Chrome. And it's interesting that he's mentioned in that sort of exalted company, considering he has yet to win a stakes race against older horses.
Yeah, I know people are very, very high on this horse coming into 2018. We'll see what happens as time goes on. Personally, forgetting about all that stuff and what he goes on to do, I just couldn't really find anybody that I wanted to play against him within Dubai World Cup. Obviously, his last 2 races, the Breeders' Cup Classic, the Pegasus World Cup, I mean, they were both really, really good performances, even though he didn't win either of those races. He's away from Gunrunner now. We can throw the video up from his last race. I mean, I don't know. He ran really, really well in this race. This is the Pegasus World Cup, his most recent start, 115 Beyer speed figure. He's just no match for Gunrunner in this race. But if he shows up on Saturday and runs this race, I just think he's going to win.
Gunrunner's turned him away now, but he's still trying. And on the turn, West Coast gave Gunrunner fans just a little bit of a scare. And the Dubai World Cup's going to be his second start as a 4-year-old. And it's kind of scary to think that maybe he's still improving. He is way the horse to beat. Matt, you think you might have found someone to beat him? You talked about the track profile. North America's got speed, and he already likes Meydan.
Yeah, he certainly does. And I mean, look, I can understand why anybody would look at this horse and say this is a little bit of a phony, because that most recent run we're going to take a look at right now, this was on a day at Meydan where I don't remember a speed bias as severe as this. It was an absolute freeway out there. And I think Thunder Snow, all things considered, actually ran quite well. Furia Cruzada, no offense, I just don't think the horse is quite as good. But this was an highway. If you made the front, you were gone. There was a sprint horse earlier in the card that won by about 7 or 8 lengths. It was his first time on dirt in a graded stakes race. I think North America is a good horse, but I'm going to need this racetrack to play very similar to the way it has been in the past, because if it doesn't, I have to be honest, I just don't think he's as talented as some of the other runners. I'm going to hope that the track carries him, though.
This race for me is for entertainment purposes only. I think West Coast gets through this. I think he's the best horse. I think he has enough tactical speed to get a good spot. Breaking from an outside post going into the first turn here, 4 to 5 on the morning line. He might even be shorter in our North American pools, but I think he's way the horse to beat, and he'll be my top selection in the Dubai World Cup. JK's got an interesting play of the day segment this week. Of course, you've got the guaranteed Rainbow Six payout at Gulfstream on Saturday. He's going to look for value plays in each of the races. And then David Aragona's Time Form U.S. Spotlight focuses on the Florida Derby. Let's go to those segments right now.
Hey, everybody, welcome to JK's Play of the Day. We're going to go in a little bit of a different direction this week. Everyone has their eyes on this mandatory payout Florida Derby Day for the Rainbow Pick 6 down at Gulfstream Park. I'm not going to be able to give you a full ticket, 6 races, a lot going on in those races. But what I do want to do is I want to give you one horse in every race that is 5-1 or higher that I would include in your tickets, whether you're doing that using Ticketmaker to make an A-B ticket. These are horses that I would use as A horses. Maybe some of them at B horses if you're trying to work with a little bit of a budget. Starting with race 9, a mile and a 16th maiden race on the turf. They didn't make it easy for you guys here. I'm going to use the 4-horse Logic, a horse for Stanley Gold. That horse kind of got a weird trip last time, was super wide all the way around there. Rough trip. He's the type of horse that I would like to consider in this spot. Was closing into okay fractions last time, was 99-1 last time. Should be a good price here, 10-1. Adding blinkers, a lot of things that are going to lead you in the right direction with a nice price horse to start off the sequence. In the second leg, I'm going to go with a little bit of a speed play. Jorge Navarro, we know what he does down in South Florida with big numbers. Really dangerous with speed horses. The 10, Rockin' Fellers, 20-1 on the morning line. Wasn't where he wanted to be last time. Down on the rail on March 3rd. Wasn't ideal down there. Showed a ton of speed early, really fast speed figures. According to Time Form US, I think that horse is one that could be a little bit dangerous at a big price to get loose and help you really have that lifetime payout of a score in the Rainbow 6. So I'm going to use the 10 Rockin' Fellers in that spot. Race 11, the Honey Fox on the turf. Glory Kitten for Abreu down on the inside. Robbie Alvarado on. Irad is off. But that horse really quickened last time in that starter allowance race. Closing into slow fractions. Michael Dubb is really sharp with his claiming operation. I think this horse is one that I would consider 10-1 on the morning line. Like I said, closing into those slow fractions, one of the things we talk about all the time on the DRF Players podcast on the turf. Going on to the next leg, the Gulfstream Park Oaks. There's a horse in here. This is probably the lowest price I'm going to give you, 5-1. Most of you would probably find this one on your own. Princess Warrior. Been waiting for this horse to kind of get back on the dirt since that Breeders' Cup Juvenile trial. Was down on the inside. We've talked about the inside, how it's not where you wanted to be on Breeders' Cup weekend. I'm going to give Princess Warrior another shot back to the dirt. Tried the turf last time. Gets Irad in this spot. He's been riding lights out down in South Florida. So the 9-horse, 5-1 Princess Warrior. On to the Pan American. Talk about Mike Meeker as often as we possibly can. They're going 1.5 miles on the grass. When they're going that far, I want to look for a trainer that I think can get it done, and also for a horse that's shown the ability to get the trip. Bigger Picture's won 5 times going 1.5 miles. It was dangerous last year down here at Gulfstream. Was dangerous pretty much everywhere they were running along on the grass. He's 6-1 on the morning line. I'm definitely going to use Bigger Picture as an A-type horse. Sadler's Joy is going to be tough, but there's a little bit of value there with Bigger Picture. On to the Express Bet. Florida Derby. This is an interesting spot for me. I think that the favorites kind of have this thing wrapped up a little bit, but I'm going to look at Hofburg a little bit. 20-1 here for Bill Mott. One first off of a layoff for Bill Mott. That's always a good sign for me for trainers that I think that might give their horses a little bit more time. Should expect an improve. Was wide all the way around there. Had Jose Ortiz. Keeps Jose Ortiz. I think Hofburg for Juddmonte is one that I would consider last leg of that pick 6. Good luck, and we'll see you next week.
Hi, I'm David Aragona for this week's Timeform US Spotlight. We're going to be taking a look at the big race for 3-year-olds on Saturday. It's Gulfstream Park's Florida Derby. It's a Grade 1 race. It goes as the last of 14 races on that Saturday card at Gulfstream. And let's take a look at the entire field on the Timeform US preview screen. There are 4 horses that are likely to take the bulk of the play in here, and you can see they kind of stand out when you look down that spotlight column at the top representative speed figure for each horse. Between 116 and 118, the 4 horses that fall between there are Strike Power, Promises Fulfilled, Catholic Boy, and likely favored in this race, Audible. You see up in the upper right-hand corner that the Timeform US pace projector. that little red See Details button, when you click on it, you see that the pace projector is predicting a fast pace in this race. And, the data suggests that there are some fast horses in here between Strike Power and Promises Fulfilled. There are two speedy types that are likely to head out towards the front. What the pace projector doesn't tell you, though, is how the riders are going to ride this race. And it's going to be a bit of a chess match between the rider of Strike Power, Luis Saez, and the rider of Promises Fulfilled, Robbie Alvarado. Because in the Fountain of Youth, when they faced off last time, Promises Fulfilled was sort of gunned out of the gate from the outside post position. You really have to do that when you're breaking from the outside, going that mile and a 16th configuration at Gulfstream. And he got in front of Strike Power, who was content to rate that day. This time with Strike Power drawing the rail, you would imagine that they're going to try to send and secure that rail position rather than get caught in behind horses heading into the first turn. So maybe Promises Fulfilled is one that's going to have to rate this time, but it'll be interesting to see how both of these horses play the break. They are the two speeds in this race, whereas Audible and Catholic Boy should be coming from a bit farther off the pace, somewhere in mid-pack to a stalking position. Let's take a look at the likely morning line favorite, Audible. He is just the horse to beat in this race. There's really no two ways about it. He's coming off 3 straight victories, and by far the most impressive of those was his 5.5 length win in the Holy Bull last time. Just a really visually impressive performance. He's a horse that takes a while to really wind up to top speed, and you could see Javier Castellano really scrubbing on coming around the far turn of that race. But once they kicked into the short stretch, he just separated himself from the rest of the field, showed a real turn of foot at the end of that race. They didn't go that slowly early, but he just kicked into another gear at the end of that race and finished very powerfully, suggesting that the 1.125 miles, the longest distance he's gone thus far, that any of these horses have gone this far, shouldn't be much of an issue. The 1:16 time formula speed figure he earned for that last win puts him right in the mix here. He was that at the time of that performance, you considered him one of the top contenders for the Derby. A lot has happened since then. Todd Pletcher has elected to only give this horse 2 preps for the race, so he comes into this off a bit of a layoff. Some others have more recency, but based on his overall form, he's got to be considered the horse to beat in this race, although at a likely short price. He's 9-5 on the line. I could see him going down a little lower than that. So I respect him, but let's take a look at some others. The horse that won the Fountain of Youth, the race that Audible skipped, is Promises Fulfilled. He's a front runner, as we said. He's going to be jockeying for the early lead with Strike Power. Now, the Fountain of Youth, visually impressive. He was able to overcome that outside post position and get to the lead. But overall, the pace was pretty moderate. It's not color-coded as being blue, indicating a slow pace in the time form USPPs, but you can see on the left-hand side that the race rating box is colored pink, indicating that all day at Gulfstream, the track was just, favoring speed, not to an intense degree, but it was favoring speed in a number of races. And just overall, in those 1 16th races at Gulfstream that have that start close to the first turn and that short stretch, they tend to favor front runners. And the race just kind of played out in a merry-go-round fashion where Strike Power chased the winner all the way around, and Good Magic, who was the favorite that day and couldn't really get on track at any point, he just kind of chased in third. Nobody really did any passing. So I wonder how the form of that race is going to hold up moving forward. This time, Promises Fulfilled might have to find himself in a stalking position. I just want to see him validate that race because I wasn't all that impressed with his 2-year-old performances. While they were solid, we haven't seen that many horses come back out of the Kentucky Jockey Club, the race he finished third in to cap off his 2-year-old season, to run well as 3-year-olds. Obviously Enticed has come back and done well, but the others haven't really improved their speed figures that much. So I want Promises Fulfilled to prove it to me, but he's another one that I think you have to use somewhere on your tickets. The horse that I'm most interested in, and I hope he's somewhere around his 7-2 morning line, is Catholic Boy, who's coming in off his initial 3-year-old prep in the Sam F. Davis at Tampa Bay Downs. Like Audible, he's coming in off a bit of a layoff, but I thought overall his debut, his 3-year-old debut that is, was a pretty strong effort, albeit disappointing as the 3-5 favorite. Given his trip in that race, I thought he ran a bit better than it seems. You can see the pace of that race is color-coded blue at the half and 6 furlong fractions. The time formula pace figures for that race are blue in the PPs. The 1:18 time formula speed figure that he earned for that race, it's one of the fastest in here. He also ran a fast race at the end of his 2-year-old season when he won the Remsen very convincingly over Avery Island, who's a nice horse. I just think he's going to trip out well in here. He's not a horse that has to drop way off the pace, but he should be somewhere in mid-pack. And I think new rider Arad Ortiz will have him in the right spot. He should be able to get the distance. He showed that he can do it as a 2-year-old, so there's no reason to believe he won't do it this time. He's kind of the wise guy horse in this race, so I'm a little worried he might get bet down to, a lower second choice closer to Audible on the tote board. But I just think he's super logical, and he's my pick in this race and the one that I really want to bet. One more horse to look at a price is the recent maiden winner Hofburg. This might be too much too soon for him. Just 2 starts. 1 start as a 3-year-old after just kind of running an even race, going a sprint distance at Saratoga last summer as a juvenile. But I really liked his return to the races last time. I know he was just facing maidens, but I mean, to break from the 11 post position going a mile and 16th at Gulfstream when you head right into that first turn, it's really hard to win from there. I mean, you just rarely see horses do it. He was wide around both turns and just, was plugging away and very game up until the end of that race. Seemed to even idle late in the stretch and kind of, ran out again when that horse came to him at the end. I don't know what he was facing that day. Certainly not as strong competition as it's going to meet here, but just a horse that I think has the ability to eventually perhaps attain this level. Might be a little bit too much too soon, but he's a horse I would use in the trifecta. So it's primarily Catholic Boy and Audible for me in the Florida Derby. I'm going to lean towards Catholic Boy, though, at a slightly better price. So let's send it back to the studio.
Time for our best bet segment here on Out of the Gate. Matt, you found something really uncommon. It's like a unicorn. An Ian Wilkes debut winner?
Yeah, Originator was a horse that we've talked about a little bit in the past. She actually came back out of her career debut and ran a good second at Tampa Bay. But I want to go back and look at the career debut because, again, we've talked about it. Ian Wilkes doesn't win with first-time starters. Look at the horse down on the inside with the blue silks, the white sleeves. Eventually he's going to angle out and finishes like an absolute house of fire. I think this horse is really, really talented. She runs in the 5th on Saturday, the Sanibel Island at Gulfstream Park, and she's going to get lost in the shuffle. You've got Amertum in there. You've got the return of Best Performance. I think Originator is a serious runner. And again, she unfortunately ran in Jehozakat most recently at Tampa, but Jehozakat is a full sister to Divining Rod. They were neck and neck, nose to nose, all the way down to the wire. I think Originator is a stone cold runner, and I think you're going to get a pretty decent number on her Saturday afternoon.
Mike, I know you're excited for the Big A card on Saturday, the New York Claiming Championships. You've got someone as the New York analyst.
Yeah, these races get tougher as the day goes on at Aqueduct on Saturday. That's why I'm going to wait till race number 10, the last race on the cards, the Kelly Kipp 6 furlongs for the sprinters. I just have to take Very, Very Stella in this race. This horse has been in very good form since David Jacobson took over the training at the end of last year. His most recent start, he was probably facing better horses this day. This is a brutally tough beat for this horse. It's a short field. They took him back to last early. He came wide through the turn. This is a race where, for a 6 furlong sprint, King Kranz, who's a pretty good horse in his own right, got to the half in 48 seconds flat. They were absolutely walking in here. Very, Very Stella's trying to close him down at the end. He's going to just miss on the wire. He ran very well last time, this horse.
I'm going to go to Parks, race number 4, number 4, also trained by David Jacobson. It's Casi Gordo, trying Parks for the first time. This is a horse that's been competing on the New York circuit, most recently on March the 24th. Jacobson likes to wheel his horses back on 1 week or less. He's doing it here with Casi Gordo, and we'll take a look at his most recent start. One start after being vanned off the track. All in all, I thought he had a good inside trip. He's easing out right now, and he's got to sort of get herded in behind horses, and I don't really think he gets optimal clearance. He probably doesn't win with a perfect trip, but it was a good enough effort with a 68 Beyer speed figure that makes me think that he's going to fit very well in against the 12-5 now winners of 3 Life that he's going to face at Parks on Saturday. He is the 4-1 second choice on the morning line at Parks. I think he's worth 5-2 or 2-1. Saturday, Parks, race number 4, number 4, that's Casi Gordo. We thank you so much for watching Out of the Gate, and we urge you to follow the latest DRF TV offerings on Twitter at DRF Video, and for the latest news and notes from America's Turf Authority Daily Racing Forum, follow on Twitter at DRF Inside Post. That's it for this week. Best of luck when your horses break out of the gate.